सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। कर्तुराज्ञया प्राप्यते फलम् कर्म किं परम् कर्म तज्जडम् कृतिमहोदधौ पतनकारणम् फलं शाश्वतम् गतिनिरोधकम् ईश्वरार्पितम् नेच्छया कृतम् चित्तशोधकम् मुक्तिसाधकम्।
So we are seeing verse 3, and we have seen the first two components of Karam Yoga. Ishwar Arpitam, a karma which is done as a dedication to Ishvara and without ichhas, in the sense those that pull us down, that bind us into ahankar and jivatva buddhi, into deha buddhi, into a karta buddhi. Those activities, those karmas we avoid, and only those karmas we allow ourselves full sanction, which are contributory towards freedom, inner freedom, and contributory towards loosening our hold on our deha buddhi, jiva buddhi. So those karmas that will become conducive to remain in the mind, to be in the mind, to allow an environment to fructify, because those set of karmas will only give us more positive opportunities in the sense of remaining engagement, things that promote loosening of our jiva buddhi. Those are the karmas that we give full sanction. So there are legitimate karmas, there are dharmic karmas, there are righteous karmas. Those karmas we discern that even if I have a very strong inclination or a like for an activity which probably is not very conducive, I sense that it has a certain level of increase of my jiva buddhi, karta buddhi. Those I should either regulate completely, minimize, or eliminate if I can. This discernment is the first. What am I to entertain in my life and not is a very important ingredient to Karma Yoga. So, karma can only be done Ishvara Arpanam if I have an Ishvara Buddhi. Ishvara in my Buddhi, in my understanding. That acknowledgement of Ishvara is to which I dedicate myself, and karmas that are sanctioned, which are going to be liberating in time, conducive for my liberation, I will try and stick my life in the boundary of those karmas. And then slowly, how these work is what is now being said. A karma done with this particular attitude. I am repeating myself, this attitude needs development. It is not going to be spontaneously there. It is not going to be अपने आप मैं ऐसा ही सोचती हूँ, ऐसा नहीं होगा. अगर आज आप अपने आप ऐसा सोच पाते हैं, that means आपने ये पहले कभी practice किया है. It is not natural for a jiva to think in terms of dedicating themselves to Ishvara or themselves to higher concept, higher idea, to because what is natural is exactly how water flows from higher to lower. What is natural is for the senses to go outward, to be reveling in their field of engagements. So natural is only bahar ki drishti, being occupied with the outer world, remaining engaged with the outer world. This is natural. But to be able to withdraw from that even a little and direct the mind and its interests and my activities to remain within the fold of the righteous avenue, within the fold of righteousness, that is only possible. It needs to be developed. The attitude needs to be developed. This is what is entirely karma done as a yoga becomes karma. Get the gain of it. Because apparently what happens is जब हम दुनिया में देखते हैं, what we see around us, that if I don't engage myself full time into world and its activities, I feel I will lose out on something. What I should be engaged with now, I should probably equip myself with a higher degree, and then that degree will give me a better job, better opportunity. So if I start introducing Ishvara in my life, I am making adjustment away from what a normal pattern seems to be. What is the gain of it? And unless and until this gain is going to be clear to me, and it should be my carrot. This gain I should appreciate that there is a gain in this. And what is that gain? Which gain is better? I will discern and automatically understand what is better for me. The gain of this attitude development is it gives citta śuddhi. What is the gain of citta śuddhi? Mukti sadhakam. It will aid itself in one's complete freedom, absolute sense of freedom. Citta śuddhi is relative sense of freedom. We saw this in Tattvabodha. Citta śuddhi means sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari. I have not brought the slide here. I'm trusting and hoping that this was done so elaborately that it must still be fresh in memory. Sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. When a person finds himself with the wealth of these sixfold qualities, he has citta śuddhi. Now, what really is citta? Uski shuddhi to be only a produce of Ishvara Arpanam Nichaya Kritam. चित्त की शुद्धि होगी. What does that imply? कि चित्त में अभी शुद्धि नहीं है. चित्त is not shuddh. Shuddh as in it's not purified fully. This is a big statement because all of us don't see ourselves as somebody who's got a lot of faults in us or, impure कैसे हैं हम? In which way are we deficient? In which way are we lacking? I live my best, I do my best, I am my best, everything. So, chitta ki shuddhi seems to be an effect coming from my attitude building of Ishvara Arpanam Nichaya Kritam. Chitta shuddhi will be the produce. वो होगा, चित्त शुद्ध होगा. It will aid in चित्त शुद्धि. That means चित्त शुद्धि होगी. It means अभी उतनी चित्त शुद्धि नहीं है. इस चित्त की शुद्धि होगी. This is a big orientation, recorrection. मतलब अभी मेरे चित्त की शुद्धि होनी है. Means अभी शुद्ध नहीं है. So what is this चित्त and what is this शुद्धि जो होनी है? Because I always say that to all of us, हम जैसा perfect model तो create हुआ ही नहीं है दुनिया में. मतलब all of us believe ourselves to be the perfection incarnate, and there cannot be a better person than me. And here Shastra says that your best vision of yourself also needs purification. If today you understand this is your best, and you must be, you are not wrong fully, but from Shastra standpoint, it's the purification. Your vision of yourself needs purification. So what is citta? We saw this in Tattvabodha. First of all, antakaranam, if you remember, etesham panchatattvanam samashti sattvikamshat mano buddhi ahankara citta antakaranani sambhutani. From the total component of the 5 elements, the sattvic component of all the 5 elements go on to make mano antakaranam, which is actually mano buddhi citta ahankar. Remember? Thoda. So mano buddhi citta ahankar is the component of your antakaranam. What is chit here? If you remember the definition, okay, this is how we saw it in the chart. Brahman plus Maya. Maya is Prakriti, Trigunatmika Prakriti, and from here came the evolutes of 5 elements, and 5 elements, the sattvic component of all of the 5 is Mano, Buddhi, Chit, Ahankar, and each one had one Gyanindriya. So space was air, etc., and each of them had one function. This was the model that Tattvabodha gave us. Mano, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. These 4 constitute your antaha, inner, karanam, instrument. Bahya karanam, if there is an antakaranam, there is bahya karanam. Bahya karanam is sharira and organs of action. Again, we saw in Tattvabodha. Antaha karanam is mano, buddhi, chit, ahankar. What was each definition there? Manaha is sankalpa vikalpatmaka manaha. Buddhi is nishchayatmika buddhi. Ahankarta ahankara chintana kartri chittam. The definition of chit given there is the very process of thinking. The process, chintan is thinking. Kartri means wo jo kar raha hai. You know, when you have a bike and if you kick the bike, then what happens? The motor starts running. Kartri, it chalni shuru hui hai. Abhi tumne raste pe chalai nahi hai, but there is an activity that started. Chintana kartri chittam. The understanding is, chittam is the thinking process, which is in keeping with what has gone before. Means it is a bundle of your memory. It is a recollection process. Now, imagine, because it's born from a samashti sattvic component, the total sattvic component, take your chit to be like a lake. What happens when you just a lake in a windless place, clear lake without any mala on it, without any disturbance, clear, peaceful. The minute you see a lake, clear lake, what is its nature automatically? It's a clear reflector. It is like a lake. In this lake, if you throw a stone, small stone, pebble, the place where the pebble falls, it first vibrates, it first disturbs it a bit. This little vibration generates a reactive force and it starts rippling, creating the waves. That stone is what the world is presenting through your senses. You know? In आँख के द्वारा form आया, कान के द्वारा sound आया, etc. Gyan Indriyas have presented material inside. They are stones. The minute they are put in as if they have come to you, they are getting registered in a chittam. Registered means it's that, if you remember, the definition of chittam was Jnana Swarupam. What is Chit? Sat Chit Anand. What is Chit? It's Jnana Swarupam. Means it is that where consciousness is fully manifest. This idea of whatever is put in your so I know. Once this chittam this ripple starts, it generates a sort of a ye kya hai, thoughts start. What is this? Ye hai ki nahi hai? Sankalpa vikalpa starts. You start seeing doubts come. You're not sure. You like it. You don't like it. So manaha starts to become operative. This manaha operation means it's a realm of doubts. It's a realm of uncertainty. It's still not sure to you. Then further the thought process takes place and you have to be determinate, you have to be decisive, you have to be resolute, you have to be firm in some thought process. What came as presented to you created a disturbance, a ripple, went with stages of emotions or doubts and everything, and then to settle it, you have to decide. Buddhi. And the arrogation of it all is ahankar. This chit, the minute this presentation of the world has come to us, the ripple here is not just from outside, it is mixed, intermixed with all the memories that one has held so far, conscious and unconscious, subconscious. In those classes, I remember we took it in a little detail when we did the mind. Everything goes, the entire system is like just a conscious revealer. जो भी उसमें पड़े reveal होता है. But we are holding out of sense of egoism and mix up of ये क्या है, नहीं है, मुझे क्या करना है, मुझे क्या नहीं करना है. There is a whole lot of that void circle. If you go back to that slide and remember, void has created in me a sense of a want. So everything that falls in the chit is seen from the eyes of a want or not want. I start developing likes and dislikes. I start moving towards and moving away. Sukha prapti, dukha nivritti. I start making changes because I am identified with a sharira, a body, and a sense of a want expressing here. So whatever the world is presenting to me, it is getting mixed up in me with my inherent impressions. Jo kuch bhi, I will call it a storehouse. What is chit? Chit is a storehouse of impression. All the impressions so far, good, bad, ugly, terrible, wonderful, kuch bhi ho, it doesn't matter. It is just a storehouse. So this starts creating a ripple from within. This is very generalized to say, express themselves as rag, dvesha. They express themselves as I want this, I don't want this. I like this, I don't like this. That means what? If you've understood clearly. That means anything that's falling in me, I am not objectively receiving it. It is mixing in me with my past impressions that I have held. That means my vision is colored by my own held impressions. So that we often find, supposing there are a lot of, if someone's had a childhood trauma, everything, the person's normalcy graph changes. Because everything is seen from that standpoint. Now, this is an extreme example. Even in a normal childhood, we are still constantly expressing a sense of want and looking at a world from it and hoping that something from the world will fulfill it, etc. Now, this whole rippling, which is getting mixed up with my inner wants, which are coming from my sense of incompleteness or void or just wanting more. This is, in a very generalized way, spoken of as raga dvesha. Rag and dvesh. Rag dvesh is always there with ahankar. Ahankar means rag dvesh hai hi hai. Kyunki rag and dvesh cannot exist without you having some view exaggerated of yourself. Raga dvesh by itself is just picked up by the Shastra to say, this is your mala. Mala means impurity. Because as long as you have these strong in you, you cannot be a peaceful person. If this lake is always disturbed by some stone or the other that keeps popping in, what are these stones now? What sort of a stone you think? Is it just the perceptions? Because they get mixed up with me, my held impressions, these stones are going to be hopes, expectations, fears, all these are expressing as reactions. The bottom line would be, it is raga dvesh. This raga dvesh, also we did a lot in details at that time, this raga dvesh is keeping the chit clouded. This pure water is capable of reflecting clearly whatever is around it. But if this water is muddled or is shaky, your reflection cannot be pure, cannot be seen clearly. This reflection that is not clear is because the chit has jakda hua. Karam कैसे जकड़ गया? Go back to verse 2. राग द्वेष से किए हुए कर्म ने अब हमें जकड़ लिया है with a sense of our body and wants, etc. and phala prapti, and now we feel a bondage or we feel tied down. So what is Karma Yoga doing? It is like cleaning the water. If there is another example given is when there is stagnant water, not fresh water, and you have moss layerings on it, and you start removing the moss. Initially what happens is you remove moss and the rest of the moss fills up. So you don't see any space. You have to go on with that effort constantly for some time. And then at some point the moss breaks. And then the water starts to appear from below as clear. But you have to go through that. Karma Yoga becomes that sort of a purificatory mechanism. Where once the chit, which is today held with a lot of past impressions, that is why in the stage of sadhana, in the stage of wanting to establish, there are a lot of disciplines a sadhak takes on. I mean, it seems very strange to talk in setup like these, where classes are actually in full-grown measure for full involvement in the world. But that fact remains, principle remains, that in the stage of your wanting to clean it up, एक तरफ आप सफाई करो और दूसरी तरफ आप कचरा डालो, will it be successful? On one hand you say, okay, I'll do karma yoga, and on the other hand you go on doing ragadvesh activity. Will it work? So this is why these people, those ashrams were made in those days, and life was allowed. Even in a setup, say even in a Vedanta class, there would have been a lot of disciplines that would have been understood that the student will take on, the teacher takes on. So that the idea is, Vedanta is not an intellectual pursuit. It has a model. Up to what? It is a roadmap. It's a guide map. Up to your stage of mukti. Starting from where? Starting from the fact that today I am an individual. Today I am who I am. How do I start this process? That was called self-growth. That is called self-growth. So raga dvesh, as long as they are prominent in a person, they impinge upon your perceptions. They impose, they color the ideas, they color the objects, they color people, even the best, what is that story? Okay, famous. It's not story, but it's in Mahabharata, you will say, same Krishna. When you look at it from Duryodhana's point of view, what is the judgment of Krishna? What does Duryodhana say of Krishna? What does Shakuni say of Krishna?
He's a troublemaker.
What does
He's
Shakuni
partial.
think of Krishna? And same Krishna from the point of view of Pandavas, Yudhishthir. Same Krishna. वो अलग नहीं है, वो वही है जो वो है. और वो ना तो वो है जो पांडव ने देखा, ना तो वो है जो कौरवों ने देखा. He is neither this nor that. But same thing, how is it seen from one standpoint as all benevolent, as all noble, as all, as for Pandavas, Ishvara himself, and for Kauravas, he is nothing but a manipulator. He is nothing but the devil incarnate, probably. Because he is the one who has been in between, because of which they couldn't get what they wanted. What has colored? It is their mind which has got imposed on Krishna. It's nothing to do with Krishna. This imposition is because of Ragadvesh in general. Because the word is going to be Ragadvesh, we don't have to stick to just Ragadvesh. That is why I'm taking this in a little elaborate sense. Chit mein, all my impressions, conclusions that I have formed because of that cycle mein reh ke, that is what is absolutely, it's kind of hidden to us, but it is always expressing. Hidden to us because we don't pay attention to it. We don't look at it so deeply. We don't want to look at it, because as I started, we all think we are halo around us. No, something. No, but that's me. मैंने तो कुछ गलत किया ही नहीं है. मैं कर ही नहीं सकती. And I'm such a good person. I'm always thinking of the other people. I'm always, trying to do the best for the others, etc. So all our, let me put it in a nutshell now. Chit, as long as you have a jiva buddhi. Jiva buddhi means I see myself as a finite individual. As long as I have seeing myself as a finite individual, chit is a impression storehouse. It's a memory. And whatever is coming in the present seems to get interlinked with that memory, and that then starts the ripple of manas. Buddhi tak to bahut log pahunchte bhi nahi hai. So it just creates that whole cycle now, of kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. The whole cycle remains intact as if. And same thing, काम है तो कर्म करेंगे, कर्म है तो फल मिलेगा, फल है तो, same cycle. And that is what is samsara. So what is happening in the nutshell, if you live a life based on raga dvesh, samsara is your outcome. You get more and more sucked in it. You get more and more bound in it. Now if I want to clean it up, okay, I say I can't see all my raga dvesh. I can't see how many impressions I carry because jiva is anadi. Kab se aa raha hai, we don't know. You cannot determine. When was your first birth? You cannot say I was born 50 janmas ago, or I was born only this janma, or I was born 100 janmas ago. Actually, that should be the date of birth. Really speaking, these are only changing clothes, no? In this birth, I am born with this cloth. With this cloth means this body. This is my cloth actually. What I cover on the body is something else. It's very temporary, but this body is my cloth. What this body I am born with is not my first birth. So that means what all impressions I am carrying, as we saw in the last class also, what carries with you is your sukshma sharir. So this chit that is now there is already got a lot of impressions. It's a storehouse. Many of them and most of them we don't recognize. We can't recognize. But just because we can't recognize, are they not dealable? Can we not deal with them? Shastra says you don't have to worry about them. You don't have to pay attention to each one of them. The whole bulk in itself, the entire moss layer that you see, you don't have to do one scoop at a time. The entire moss layer, throw alum in it and it starts to remove the whole layer. Karam Yoga means throw Ishvara now in this bundle of thoughts. Already आपका दिमाग चित्त में बहुत impression है, restless है, disturbed है, etc. या खुश है, जो भी है, but it's incomplete. The idea is I am incomplete. Throw in this a new idea. The nature of that new idea should be the nature of the new thing that is thrown is that it should not be again one of the components of your jivatvam. संसार के अंदर का ही एक component नहीं होना. But it's going to be a part of the creative process itself. Then now you will again be bound to another cycle. So the component that you introduce in yourself is one of the aspects of creation. So what is the whole realm of Ishvara? Ishvara is not the aspect of creation. Ishvara is the creator. He is not the creation. He is the thing because of which there is creation. So the minute Ishvara is introduced in you, over a period of time, and I don't mean very long, it depends subjectively how sincerely it has been applied, but over practice, let me put it this way, over a little practice of these attitudinal integrations in the chit of oneself, dhire dhire this raga dvesh begins to loosen up. The karta buddhi shakes up. Your focus shifts. It's a very beautiful quality. Those who do Karam Yoga, they know that just as moksha is indescribable, the benefits of Karam Yoga are indescribable. Because citta śuddhi can only be known. It cannot be described. How do you know you have citta śuddhi? You will have citta śuddhi when you can see that all those sadhana chatushtaya sampanna qualifications you find yourself with to some extent. They are available to you. The affectation of the world is not as severe as it used to be. So what Karam Yoga does is, it purifies Raga Dvesh, generalize, that means it purifies the hold of the impressions. Why? Very simple arithmetic. You are not adding to it. If you don't add to it, it starts to minimize. It's not growing. Raga dvesh grows with your attention. The more it gets, stronger they get. If you have shifted your attention to something which is higher, greater, if you have shifted the attention to something else, which is of the nature of truth, Satyam, it is of the nature of Satyam, automatically this Jiva Buddhi begins to loosen itself. That loosening of Raga Dvesh and Jiva Buddhi becomes Mukti Sadhakam. And the joy of Karam Yoga is, yes, it gives a lot of inner relaxation. Yes, it is the product of the outcome of Karam Yoga is that it gives you relative freedom. In fact, that freedom is felt as absolute freedom. इतनी अंदर से इतना अंदर से free लगता है, even if your external situation is bad, and I'm calling it as bad, difficult. If it's difficult, internally you feel very free. You feel capable, you feel confident, you feel supported, you have all the positive virtues that help you to overcome the difficult time, even if it is difficult, to the extreme. What was Arjuna's difficulty? Bura hal tha. You know? Because he could surrender at the right time and go through his grief cycle, shorten his grief cycle. Because he could do all this, he was able to pick up his bow and arrow again and fight the war. Delusion gone. He was able to jump back because that confidence re-emerged, even if it was shaken temporarily. Citta Shuddhi gives that. And what does Ragadvesh do? What happened to Duryodhan? What happens to Shakuni? What happens to any of the Kauravas? Even if, well, there is no freedom, firstly. There is no chance of bouncing back. There is no chance at all of finding joy, inner joy. Because what is the nature of joy? Remember, Sat, Chit, Ananda. This Chit, which is knowledge Swarupa, is Anand Swarupa. So the more silent and quiet the Chit gets, more the consciousness, which is Sat, which is Atma, is now recognized, is revealed, shines. And it can be discerned. So it becomes Mukti Sadhakam. It's discernible now. But over a Ragadveshi mind, any amount of your Brahman, your Atman, क्या होने वाला है? Imagine if you have a very Duryodhan को Krishna ने कहा, क्यों लड़ रहे हो Duryodhan? You are Atman. There is no birth, there is no death. Duryodhan भी तो Atman ही है at the end of the day. It's not just the Pandavas जो Atman है. Duryodhan भी Atman है, Shakuni भी Atman है. So, oh Duryodhan, you are Atman. Not even bothered to tell him. Krishna didn't even bother. Because अगर उसको बोलेंगे तू आत्मन है, what do you think is going to be a response of a Duryodhan buddhi? Whoever has a Duryodhan, क्या response देगा वापस?
He'll probably laugh.
Laugh, maybe he's got some objectivity. He will throw it back on you. तुम होगे. He'll say. He's calmed about who he is, as he is, and there is no problem with who he is. The problem is with you. If you think I am Atman, that is your problem. It's not my problem. And many more shades like that. So the idea is, Mukti ka sadhan means all Gyan will also work only when there is some Chitta Shuddhi. But now what happens with Gyan? It gets misinterpreted, it gets misread, it gets misunderstood. And not only misunderstood, it's completely wrongly understood after that. So here, Ishvara Arpanam done with being righteous. Keep a limit of how wrong can I do in life for what I want. There should be a limit to that. That what I call as I will not do this come what may. So there will be some sort of a line within which you choose to live your life and its journey. Within that, once you do this Ishvara introduction to oneself, because of which you will be able to do Karam Yoga, without which you cannot do Karam Yoga, because of this, slowly there will be relative freedom inside. Your chit will, छोड़ देगा वो फालतू की बातें जो मन में चलती रहती हैं, छोड़ देगा, because वो अब उसको खुद को ही लगेगा कि what a stupid thing am I talking, things that have no significance, etc., etc., etc. So those things now, this chit is now going to get freed of, and that becomes mukti ka sadhan. It's clear. There is a very beautiful quotation. It's a quotation, means it's become a quotation, but this is Swami Vivekananda who said it in the context of samsara and bondage. He says we are creating this bondage all the time. How? By putting in our share. Now in this context, what is our share? All this past memory build-up which is now going in it. We are all making our own beds, forging our own chains. When the identifying ceases between the external object and myself, then I will be able to make my contribution off. Means I'll remove my contribution from there. And this thing means this whole samsaric realm will disappear. This whole bondage will disappear. This whole sense of limitation that I feel, this whole sense of smallness that I have, this whole sense of individuality that I feel is, binding me, whatever ties me, the whole thing will disappear when, he says, when I stop contributing to it. और ये बात समझने में भी, I think we need some, how do I contribute to my own bondage? Thus, raga-dvesh based activity is you contributing to your bondage. How do I stop contributing it? I am not being raga-dvesh. I act with a sense of dharma. I act for dharma. I act for. I just simply act because it's to be acted upon. I just do an action because it needs to be done. I don't know how many people understand this statement, because most people find it very weird when this is said. Just act because it's to be done. I just do it because it's to be done. What more can be the reason for an action? What more needs to be a reason for action? कुछ करना है, जो दिख रहा है करने वाली चीज है, and it should be in the limits, that is to be done. And there's a nice story. In the story, not a story, this is how Ramayana is. How Ramayana is in us for us. I'm trying to connect us to the development of desire and how it becomes a bondage. When Sita saw the golden deer, when she saw the golden deer pass by, what happened? What was the next thing that came up in Sita?
He wanted it.
Desire.
I want it. Desire. I want it. Quote unquote. The minute she said, I want it, that became the background for Ramayana to follow. she had only seen it. Golden deer is a pleasing thing to the eyes. It gave you some pleasure. But the identification of possessing it was not there, did not emerge. I want it thought did not come. What will happen? Certainly she wouldn't have been abducted. Certainly Rama wouldn't have gone for it. You know? There would have been no killing of Ravan probably, because Ravan wouldn't have come. Rama would have had to do it another time. Ravan may have had a longer life. Am I making sense? I'm looking like, ये क्या कह रहे हो आप?
Yeah, it is
नहीं
making
समझ
sense.
रहा?
I am.
Okay. Okay. आया ना, ठीक है. Because Akanksha's expression is telling me that, what are you talking? What are you saying this? But is it
No,
not
no,
a
I'm
fact?
just very amused because you're absolutely right. It's so true. It wouldn't have happened had she not said I want it. I completely agree.
Exactly. Exactly. You know,
We have not
now
thought it
watch
that
us.
way.
Now here, see, look at this, what he's saying. If I don't add to that, how we add to our misery, how we add to our samsara. That want-based karma creates samsara at some point. And wanting to not do what I should do will also create samsara. Wanting to not do what I should do. I should be doing something, but I don't want to do. I should be getting up in the morning, but I don't want to get. I should be exercising, but I don't want to exercise. I should be eating healthy food, but I don't want to eat healthy food today. I should be doing this, but I don't want to do it. एक आध दो बारी में तो it's okay. Nature gives us a lot of rope to correct ourselves. So a little bit of a flexible margin is there. But if I cross that margin, if she had only said, okay, I want it, but then she neutralized the thought and said, no, what can a deer be doing? Golden. And then she would have said, how can a deer be golden? Now, in the context of today's class, that golden deer was the stone, mixed with the sense of want. She's, after all, a princess, lived in a probably, at that point, that thought emerged as wanting it. And the minute this thought fructified, if the next thought would have said, how can this be a golden deer? Now what has come into picture? Which faculty of your antakarnam has come?
You're using buddhi.
Absolutely. The minute your mind expressed, I want, the ripple was the golden deer generating the ripple, mixed with my inner sense of want, imposed it on the golden deer possession. And to golden deer possession, now I cannot run after the golden deer, so Rama has to run after the golden deer and get the golden deer for me because I want the golden deer. But all this process of associating with the karanam and could have been stopped the minute the buddhi came and said, is this real? Can it be so? The buddhi could have stopped the rippling effect that was generated in the mind. So even if it came, buddhi was the one that could have stopped it. And this whole thing is self-management. How you manage, Vedantan, when you get this knowledge enough, you become the best management guru. You really can. Because all management is self-management. And you know exactly how to manage. When you know how to manage your mind with little practice, it's as good as conquering the world. Because this thought ripple that is going to generate is going to be the cause of my bondage. If I can see it, to some extent, not always, but wherever. So he says, the minute you introduce a life based on Karam Yoga, citta will become purer, khali. And the idea is you will have sadhana chatushtayam sampanna qualities. At the same time, you will have a lot of inner relaxation and freedom. Freedom from wants, freedom from jealousy, freedom from anger, freedom from... And if in anything they are getting increased in you, then it needs a call, checkup. And it can be with noble activities also. That is the management part of it. And thus he says, this citta śuddhi will make it mukti sadhakam. Now, how difficult is it? Just imagine for 1 minute, if you remove the whole idea of a free will capacity to act, introducing Ishvara, because that capacity is now going to be based on a choice that you will make, because naturally what is available is Raga Dvesh is available to me. I can act on it. My actions can be prompted by my Raga Dvesh. But if I want to not prompt them from my Raga Dvesh, I want to prompt them because it, either from a sense of duty, as an arpanam to Ishvara, once I was asked once, why have you come to this field, say Vedanta, because we started very young. Why would you not want to pursue your career? Why do you want to go study this full time? Why do you want to engage in all this? At that point, there was only one thought. Say, if I had that thought, it's my young person that I would like to offer. When I get old, it's an option open, but I'd rather give my youngness. At that stage, I didn't understand this. It was such a natural motivation. But when I look back now, I'm not giving you my example of glorifying, please don't mistake it. I'm giving it as an example to say how Ishwar Arpanam cannot necessarily just mean Ishwar Arpanam. It is Arpanam to Ishwara. So in that example, it could be anybody else. And I'm sure there are almost everybody who comes to this field, to this knowledge, comes with a motivation much stronger than this also probably. What is that there? It's an offering, which means I really don't know what I get out of my daily need and daily want. I do not know my future because it's going off the graph. It's not a regular pattern. Therefore, yet, it's something I think can be of. This is Ishwar Arpanam. A life led on Ishwar Arpanam. What will it do? In time, citta śuddhi. Supposed to be. There are a lot of slips in between. Principle is this. After that, it's subjective to each one. Your prarabdha will play your own, how strong the ragdvesh is, how much you have to, a lot of factors, but the principle will not change. So far, so good, everyone? We are on board.
Deepti ji, can this be anugraha?
What can be anugraha?
You getting into Vedanta? Can it be anugraha?
I will definitely see it only as anugraha. There's no doubt about it. For you also, for every one of us, Vedanta is an anugraha. Would you not say that for yourself also?
I would definitely say that.
So
I would have done something.
Correct. No, because you're able to take time out for something which doesn't seem to have any relevance to giving you back in the world. That is why I started by saying, चित्त शुद्धि का फायदा क्या है? अगर हमें clear नहीं है, so you will always have the doubt, should I not have done this? Should I earn more money? Should I do more work? And today's world is so PR based. And you realize that even if I'm taking online classes, even if I upload classes on YouTube, if I don't do it's like certain amount of social interaction will have to be done to even, it's such a big karma in itself. No? Priyanka is really relating to this. How much of it needs to be kept going, is not it's exhaustive. I'm talking about myself here. So the fact that it has come to us where you are spending your time doing something which doesn't seem to be putting me back into the world and its activity, for that time at least. This is anugraha. Vedanta किसके कान में जितना भी घुसता है, ये अनुग्रह के अलावा आता ही नहीं है. It is pure anugraha, and that is a huge, huge, I think it's a gift in life. Highest gift, if I can think like that. So now, how are you going to introduce? My idea was, we'll do this next class, of course, but introducing Ishvara in a regular day life. If I don't have, I said, if you remove all this faculty of your free will, if you just remove it, imagine for a moment you've removed it. You don't have the faculty of free will. I'm taking 2 more minutes. You can't act. Can you imagine? Anybody can imagine? If you just remove this capacity करने की जो capability है, चाहे राग द्वेष के कर्म ही क्यों ना हो, अगर वो बिल्कुल हट गई, what will your life be?
Like a robot?
Animal और हम में फर्क ही नहीं रहा फिर.
Absolutely the animal में और हमें फर्क नहीं रहेगा. You have to do this manan. Absolutely correct. So, our slides, I don't know where I left it, maybe somewhere. Karma is a tool to a human being. Karma is as much divine as Ishvara himself is. This is a tool for a human being. It's a divine thing. Therefore, to ignore karma will be making yourself an animal. Karma means I am executing the free will. I'm utilizing the capacity. Now I say, Abhi, we have a limited capacity. Now imagine the other spectrum. You have infinite capacity to do karma. Any karma. Free will to do. You're not limited at all. What will that become? If you're not limited to do any karma, what will that become? Sorry?
Humans would just be out of control, and I don't know, they'll go crazy and do what strange things.
Will that be even a human? Capacity. You're completely no limitation to your capacity to perform action. Full measure, Viriam full measure. Absolutely. The other spectrum of this would become the infinite power. What is called as Devata. When this capacity is not limited, it goes to the other extreme. That is Ishvara. That you're introducing. Today, I acknowledge this limited capacity. And in this limited capacity, I need to understand karma is absolutely a privilege for human being. But it is a double-edged sword. First 2 verses, it can be a cause of your bondage. 3rd verse, it can become a reason for your mukti. It can become a hetu for your mukti. And that's how important this karma is. And that's how important it is for a human being to understand how to generate karma because you are going to be generating karma from your will. और उसका फल आप ही को आएगा. So the technique of Karma Yoga is the only way in which you find you can continue to act and your action will not bind you. So you can continue to act and the action will not bind you. That's the benefit of Karma Yoga. And so now the question is, since it is so difficult for whoever it is difficult, Ishvara straight away in our karma, what are the ways in which directly karma can be done to Ishvara? So fourth verse onwards, you are doing karma to Ishvara only to start off with as a practice. Which means if I have an idol in front of me, I impose on it and I light a lamp, supposing. This karma is done to whom?
Ishwara.
To Bhagwan. So automatically I start learning, because straight away to say bring Ishvara may not be easy for everyone. So now the book is going to tell us what are the ways. It starts with first direct to Ishvara itself. So fourth, fifth and sixth verse we'll see next time. Do you need to see the screen, Priyanka? Remember?
I'll try.
Okay.
ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां फलं भवतु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम् न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषा गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः
Excellent. We'll see you tomorrow. You have a question, Akanksha?
I have a question.
Oh, no, not tomorrow. Next week. Yes, Priyanka.
So, if we do karma yoga for Ishwar, it leads to citta shuddhi. So, what I wanted to ask, is this like a linear relation or is it like a cycle? So, the more karma I do for Ishwar, the more citta shuddhi I get, and then I can do more karma for Ishwar, or is it linear?
What do you mean by linear here? One time?
Yeah, so if I keep doing karma for Ishwar, eventually I get citta shuddhi
No.
as a
it's
result,
cycle.
or it's a cycle.
That's how it grows. It's a cycle se zyada, it's a spiral upward.
Right.
So it's actually a spiral, but going upward. And that is why the minute you slip into Ragadvesh, it's a spiral downward.
Right.
जीवत्व में जितना जितना विजन ज्यादा बैठता जाता है, राग द्वेष जिस इंसान का बढ़ता रहता है, यू फाइंड देम डिटीरियोरेटिंग एज अ पर्सन. There's so many people we say ये क्या इंसान है भी क्या? No? Because they have slipped into the realm of not even being the human life. So what will happen at the end of the giving up of this body? They will slip to a lower body. So when you start doing these spiritual activities, introduce them in your life, this is how you go spiral upward. Up to the point of Swargaloka, all based on karma, because it's all karma janat.
But Deepti ji, मोक्ष मिलता है या because स्वर्गलोका
Sorry?
you also said मोक्ष मिलता है या हम because स्वर्ग में भी
I
जितना
was
कर्म
hoping somebody will bring it up because it shows that it was not understood clearly. मैंने नहीं कहा कि मतलब वेदांता doesn't say कर्म से स्वर्ग मिलता है. पूर्व मीमांसक कहता है कर्म से स्वर्ग मिलता है. So they accept स्वर्ग as मोक्ष. उनका definition is मोक्ष because one of the groups of पूर्व मीमांसका से स्वर्ग में निरतिशय सुखम, I said, remember?
yeah that's what I'm saying वो
This
कर्म से
unsurpassable
spend होता
bliss.
चला गया.
हाँ, वो कर्म से मिलेगा आपको. That much is acceptable. But वो उसको मोक्ष कहना is not acceptable to us.
Yeah, so that's
Because I
now I
showed you how that avidya, as long as it is there, your potential for karma is always going to be there.
But
So in
if
other
we are
words,
doing
सब में है.
Deepti ji, as long as avidya is there, even if you have a very clear chit, there is still a potential for karma, like Sita ji.
As long as avidya is there, and if you have a very clear chit, that clear chit is only a mukti sadhaka. Atma, anatma, viveka has to be there. You have to recognize what is expressing in this chit is Atman, not this limited confined thing. So that viveka becomes easy, effortless. जो अभी राग द्वेष के थ्रू विवेक मुश्किल लगता है, नामुमकिन लगता है actually. How can I be Atman? How can I be Brahman? Because raga dvesh is I am. So to the extent we all have chitta shuddhi, we are able to relate to Vedanta. So nobody is absolutely, so there are pockets where you understand and you start saying, हाँ ये समझ में आ गया, ये समझ में आ गया, ये समझ में आ गया. And there'll be pockets जो हमको लगता है ये नहीं समझ में आया, ये नहीं समझ में आया. So absolutely it goes spiral upwards, correct? And Swarga is not moksha from Vedantic standpoint. Atma Vidya is direct reason for moksha. Karma cannot give you moksha.
so Deepti ji,
Karma's
keep
purpose is only chitta shuddhi. But without chitta shuddhi, you will not get moksha.
and if you keep doing this, like you keep telling God, okay, this is I do this for you, or like you keep doing it, it keeps growing, then would a stage come when you'd get more?
You are like, if you are doing it correctly, chitta shuddhi का मतलब ही है viveka also starts to erupt. Vivek buddhi also develops. So vairagya also develops because of vivek. And that is how you start seeking knowledge in the world. So even if you go on, if you write chess, that's the purpose of it. Theoretically speaking, so you will go to Swarga because you would have earned so much punya and you will come back at the end of the Kala as a jiva and start the journey all over again. So uske beech mein how many billion years have gone, koi baat nahi. But you have lived in Swarga. And that is why probably those who come back, I am such a princely feeling about ourselves, princessly feeling about our, हम अपने आप को स्वर्गवासी ही तो समझते हैं. That's a joke, of course, but I'm sure you get it.
Yes.
Is that clear, Divya?
Yes. Thank you.
repeating myself. So the idea is, even if you go on doing karma yoga, there are two things that happen. One likely thing is, Krishna himself says in the Gita, he says, I will give you the next stage of your development. I will give you knowledge, he says. On a citta shuddha manaha, he says, if you have done it correctly, I will come and bring knowledge to you. Second thing is, even if it has your Viveka Vairagya is not fully developed, you would have earned the punya. For some time, you will go spend a very nice time till your punya gets exhausted or reduced a little bit for you to start the journey. Because self-growth journey, you will need some punyam, but not so much that it indulges you. आपके आंखों के आगे सुख का. तो थोड़े pinpricks are एक मुमुक्षु को प्रॉब्लम नहीं है थोड़े pinpricks में, because it keeps them grounded. Okay, fine then. So I am going to thank you all for being regular, because those who said are coming are, and if they're missing, I don't know if they're following on the classes, and if they are following on the classes, please send me a message that you're following the classes on the recordings and the sense of a mail, so that I know who's following. I'll adapt the class accordingly. Otherwise, at this point, you people are regular, and I know one or two more will join, but who said will join and has not joined, let me know if you're listening on the recording. And thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for the classes, Deepti ji. Thank you. We should thank you.
Take care.